Hello and welcome to another Emerald Hill Skies live stream. We're here on the outskirts of Louisville, Kentucky, and we're glad to have you here tonight. It's been another hectic evening getting everything going, in spite of the fact that I started plenty early. Part of that is because we did introduce several new factors tonight. And if you are here with us tonight and you haven't been here before, one of the things we try to do is we try to take people into the Emerald Hill skies with live views. So let's get started with that. And in terms of our target list, um, let's go to Astro Planner and let's sort the list by what's visible right now and what's highest up in the sky. Now you can see here perhaps that the thing that's yellow or highlighted, that's the stuff that we haven't observed yet. I got to say there are several clouds, and on an iPad here, I can look at our scope, and I don't have that yet on the live stream, but I can see even on the live stream there are lots of clouds up there in the sky. So let's go with something a little brighter. I'm going to scroll down here and just go to something like kind of trying to see something like a Messier object that's brighter. Let's start with something like the Whirlpool Galaxy. Why don't we start with that? That's kind of a small target, but let's give it a try. We're going to connect to our telescope, and then we're going to try to slew to that. And this is our first object to slew to. And there we go. And we're watching on our scope, and it does look like the scope is moving. I'm sorry we don't have the scope visible yet in the live stream, but there were just too many things going on to try to hook everything up at once. But it does indeed look like the scope is slewing. So let's go over to our planetarium program. And in our planetarium program, let's see if we can find the same galaxy, the Whirlpool Galaxy. And that's kind of what we're looking for. Let's center this and kind of look where we are in the sky, kind of near the meridian. And it's Messier 51, of course. Kind of, if you look, this is the handle of the Big Dipper. So we're just right off the handle of the Big Dipper. Let's go over to SharpCap, which is the program that we use for imaging. And let's put in our target name, M51. And let's connect to the scope down here. It is connected, it looks like. And let's do an attempt to plate solve. See if we can make sure that we are where we think we are. I'm looking over here at the iPad, the surveillance view of our scope, and my goodness, there's so many clouds up in the sky. This is the first object we viewed, so you can see we're about 3.36 degrees off on our location in the sky. But we're using this plate solving technology. This is going to now synchronize the mount, which holds the scope. It's going to synchronize that with the actual view through the scope. So let's do a reset and a stretch here. Here to tell you, let's reset this display histogram, and now let's hope against hope that we'll be able to go into live stacking. Okay, this looks better. Now let's live stack and clear that. Okay, so once again, this object, gang, is M51, and this is a favorite object because, in part, it is so odd. As you can see in the planetarium software, it's basically this large galaxy is interacting with this smaller galaxy, and what you have here is uh, this basically gravitational tide that's happening between the two, and they're starting to interact. They're just messing with each other, And what that's doing is creating, in a sense, they will someday completely merge together, presumably. The larger galaxy um, is NGC 5194. The smaller is NGC 5195. And Messier finally sketched this and said, well, I meant M51 to apply toward the larger galaxy. Um, Keep in mind, he was looking through the most, like the craziest telescopes of his time. I'm told that they were so crazy, it's a wonder that he ever saw anything, to be honest. Um, they were basically metal mirrors, and it would be equivalent to looking through it with like a I don't know, a 3-inch telescope of today, perhaps. Maybe not even that good. Now let's kind of zero in on this a little bit with our zoom. And because this camera has a fairly large, um, whatever, megapixel. Now I'm looking at our surveillance camera outside the scope, and the telescope is pointing almost directly overhead at the zenith. And if we go back, in fact, to our planetarium software and look at this, and let's zoom in. See, here's the zenith. That would be directly overhead, and look at how close we are to the zenith. We're like 10 degrees away from the zenith. So if you went outside right now and you looked straight up, and you live somewhere in the vicinity of Louisville, Kentucky anyway, you would be looking at the patch of sky that shows you this, but you wouldn't be able to see, obviously, M51 because we're looking at a very, very, very tiny object. In fact, we can go over here at our targeting software, and it actually tells us how big the object is. The size is 10.8, and I think that's in minutes. 10.8 minutes by 6.6 long 130-foot cable in made up of two 65-foot USB 3 cables. Sure enough, it did not carry the signal like I hoped it would. So I had to unplug the two cables and drop back to 65 feet. So the scope is actually just 65 feet outside of this dining area where the guys and I are here. How many guys we got? 6, 7, 8 guys in here with me that are observing. These guys are all headed overseas for different assignments here in just another 3 or 4 days, 3 days, and they're staying up late tonight to capture this. So guys, we appreciate you guys being a part of this. I wish we had some of Robert's popcorn, uh, but we don't. So Robert, you're being just a little bit selfish with your popcorn. Robert says, Frank, is that hot pixels just to the right? I have similar. L says Ellie, hi from Tulsa. Hello, Ellie. Thanks for checking in. Brian, we already answered that. Frank saying woohoo because we finally got things working. Frank, yes, the red and the blue are hot pixels. That would be resolved with dark frames. Now I think I'm running a dark frame, but it's not tuned to this uh, new imaging train. That's the problem. See, if we go into the pre-processing, I am using this dark frame, but what I'm hearing you say, Frank, that this dark is not accomplishing a lot for me because it's from the previous imaging train. So we might just lose that dark if you think, Frank, on the next object. Okay, so let me do one more thing. Let's save a snapshot of this so that we get it zoomed in. So I'm going to go, see, Windows key Shift S. I'm going to grab like a real close snapshot of this, and boy, it did not show me my little thing to edit that though. I wonder why. Yeah, it's not showing me that, so we'll have to skip that tonight. Okay, we're going to stop live stacking. We're going to go back to our targeting software, And we are going to pick the next object. Let's just do a quick observation here. Let's say, wow, took forever to get our live stacking histogram tuned, partly because we're working off of a new imaging train. This is the first object on a new Artesky filter, I guess Artesky RASA camera holder, I guess is what you'd call that. Uh, okay, and then we'll just say still once tuned, M51 was amazing as usual. Something like that. And then we'll go back to our objects. Let's do another sort based on visibility and altitude. The yellow, the highlighted objects are the ones we haven't observed before. But I just thought, we should try to do some brighter objects with this new imaging thing. Let's go to the Pinwheel Galaxy. How about that? M101. So we're going to slew to
Slewing
that.
to coordinates.
Okay, Frank says darks need to
Slewing
match with
complete.
exposure, gain, and temperature. Wow, Frank, I thought that flats were the one that matched with exposure, gain, and temperature. So I do have a library of flats that I've captured under the old imaging train. Won't do me any good here, huh? Let's go over to SharpCap now, and let's change this to M101 for our target name. By the way, this is the new version of SharpCap, so that's something else I changed, by the way. I'm in the new 4.0 beta, and I just thought, well, man, a lot of other people are using the beta now. Surely it's good enough. So let's do this reset here. There are some stars now, so hopefully that'll let us. Oh, I'm zoomed in, aren't I? That's one reason why I wasn't seeing as many stars. So now I'm curious, does this do plate solving based on what I had done, what I had zoomed in on? If so, it is not going to find anything, is it? Let's do this. Let's change this to about maybe 5 seconds for a minute and push the gain up to something amazing like 400 or 500. Just long enough to get, yeah. There,
Syncing to coordinates.
Now it's plate solved.
Slewing complete.
Okay, that's a very grainy picture, but it says we're aligned now. Only two 100ths of a degree off. Let's drop this gain down to 150. How about that? And reset this one more time. And now let's try to start live stacking. And let's clear the last live stack and put that back up there. And let's go back out to auto. We're at 30 seconds at 150 gain. Okay, so I'm not going to catch up on what you guys are writing. Frank says dark needs to match with exposure, gain, and temperature. Frank, I thought darks, that you just took one dark for the whole thing with the lens cap on, and that took care of everything. Frank says flats are affected by changes in image train and don't need to be matched to exposure, gain, and temperature. I had it just the opposite. I thought flats did have to be matched. Boy, that's crazy. Frank says the tails associated with the red pixels. By the word of the Lord, the heavens were made, their starry host by the breath of his mouth. Psalm 33:6. Thank you, Mitstap. Wow, that's awesome. Frank says, I believe so. I don't know if you're believing the starry host, Frank, or oh no, you're saying you think the tails are associated with the red. All right, so We are live stacking now. We need to bring this back up. And let's reset this and reset the color balance. Bring this over, and now with that partially tuned, let's zoom in on 101, and let's go up to about a 50% zoom. So there you can see the arm starting to show up. And while that's showing up, we'll, in fact, let's just do this for a minute so you can see the whole thing. While that's doing its stuff, let's play you the audio tour for this.
M101 is one of the most impressive spiral galaxies in the heavens, and one of the easiest to find. It is situated high atop the last stars of the handle of the Big Dipper, and can be hunted down by following Mizar, the naked eye double in the handle, and following a small string of stars just above towards the end of the Dipper's handle. M101 appears as a smudge in binoculars. Even 60mm telescopes show a bright center with surrounding very faint fog. The spiral nature is apparent from the many bright knots and blobs, great nebula within this galaxy that surround the center. The spiral structure can't be followed continuously, but can be seen as intermittent bright patches. Many fainter galaxies are within this general area, especially for users of 250mm or larger telescopes.
Okay. Look at the way it only took, how long have we been stacking? 3 minutes. It only took 3 minutes to start revealing those spiral arms. And look at all that dust. They say that dust is a lot like what we think of when we think of soot. Frank's saying nice. Frank, that's so nice to encourage people. I see what the hot pixels you guys are talking about. Look at that blue hot pixel there now. I'm kind of ashamed of that, but on the other hand, it is the first time to use this imaging train. So we're zooming in a little bit more. Again, this is M101. Look at that grand spiral arm structure. That's at 75%. I think if we go 100, it'll start. We're almost not seeing the whole thing if we go 100. It's almost better to go 75, I think, and then you kind of get the big picture of everything. There's just a little bit of grain out here, isn't there? I think that's because I moved the gain up a little bit. Another thing I have tonight, wow, Kim, you're on from Adelaide, Australia. Would it be like, is it 10:50 a.m. in Adelaide? Yeah, Frank and Robert, a little bit of star trailing. It's very possible because I'm zoomed in all the way. And you know what I have on the scope tonight? I have a guide scope, but I did not get time to get it all set up before the broadcast. So it's there. We're just not using guiding yet. So what you're seeing is just a very, you know, the normal map. You know, that's what you're seeing, and maybe some of those stars are starting to elongate a little bit. The other thing that I'm not sure about yet, in this Arcturus mount, this Arcturus holder, I need to find somebody who uses this Arcturus holder because I mean it's brand new to me. I use the little what do you call it? Like a washer, like a stainless steel washer that comes with it. But there were absolutely no instructions with this, and in a quick search on the web, I didn't see any instructions as to whether or not I should be using that washer. But I did put that little washer in there in my imaging train, and I wonder if that's having a little trouble with my back focus. So I'll have to talk to somebody who's accustomed to the Arcturus holder with the RASA 8-inch scope, and maybe they can tell me if that washer should have been there. Boy, look at all these dust lanes starting to show out here in these spiral arms now. I tell you what, let's see if we can figure out how wide that is. See, we ought to be able to figure this out, guys. It's 24 arc minutes. So let's do the quick math on that. 24 arc minutes. I cheated, and it looks like it's 170,000 light years wide. That would be about double the width of our Milky Way galaxy, wouldn't it? Because I think our Milky Way galaxy is about roughly 100,000. So this is a huge galaxy, 170,000 light years wide. And of course, it's also fairly far away, 20 million light years away. Um, I would say that's a pretty grand structure galaxy, wouldn't you? Okay, that's 7 minutes. And look, our histogram here is pretty well stretched. Let's see if we can get just a little bit more of those dust lanes. Look at how our reds are really coming in strong. So I'm just going to manually bring those down and then try to bring this up a little bit more. Look at the way we're starting to pick up stuff all the way out in here. And you know what's amazing about tonight is that it is a night with the moon. Uh, the moon is at 100%. I'm just looking here. I'm looking at where the moon is. It rose. It rose just 20 minutes ago or so, 15 minutes ago, but it is at 99.3% illuminated. So it's going to play havoc with us. We are using a Celestron light pollution filter to cut out some of the light from the Louisville sky, but it's not going to help us much on the moonlight, frankly. It's not going to help us much at all. Well, this gives us a good view of the pinwheel, doesn't it? Let's save this. And there we go. And then let's also go back to our, boy, isn't that beautiful? I love the fact that that's up there all along and we just never see it. Let's go back to our targeting software and do a new observation and say 170,000 light years across. And we can also attach this image. Let's see. What we'll do is we'll go grab that. And I'm not sure you'll see the frame where we're attaching this. But let's see. M101. Right there it is with the. Okay. Okay, so that's the pinwheel. Let's see. Kim, 4,000 miles away. Yeah, Australia is going to be a little bit farther. Robert says, Doug, it is still awesome. You're kind to encourage, Robert. When Kim says, Robert, I'm a fair hike from almost everyone. Doug, with Astro Twilight here now for the next few months, only targets for me are going to be globular clusters. I got you. Is it foggy? Yeah, it is foggy. It is foggy, as a matter of fact. And I'm thinking, I'm wondering if that's part of what we're dealing with here. There's a fog advisory out, in fact. All right, so we can actually take requests from you guys. Would you like to let's do another sort. Let's sort for visibility and altitude. Again, the highlighted things are the things that we haven't seen. I'm not sure we'll be able to at least see it in the planetarium program and know it's up right now. It's just that it's only 3 degrees up right now. Let's look for M63 in our planetarium software. M63. while that's live stacking. And let's listen to this tour.
M63 is a bright northern galaxy in the constellation of Canis Venatici. This spiral galaxy, sometimes called the Sunflower, is bright enough for enjoyment in both the small and large telescopes. Locating M63 can be a bit tricky, since it is in an area with few guide stars in the sparsely populated region under the handle of the Big Dipper. To find M63, imagine a line from Alkaid, the end star of the Dipper handle, and connect this to Cor Carili, the leader of the hunting dogs. Incidentally, this star is a very fine double in small telescopes. Once these stars have been spotted, find the midpoint between the two. M63 will be nearby. In small telescopes, M63 is a dot with a haze about it. Larger telescopes show the inner and outer structures, with hints of riches within.
All right, so what we can do is start zooming in, and you can start see it forming there. This is M. Messier 63. We probably should say, in case you're listening, Messier was a comet hunter. And you can see if that was his view, like imagine that was his view right there. You can see how he might have mistaken that. He might have mistaken that for a comet. So once he would observe it on several nights and find out that it didn't move, now he knew that it wasn't a comet anymore, and he would name it and log it, and he kept this list for his fellow comet hunter friends and finally published this. And that's how we got the Messier list. This was in the late 1700s when he was doing this. We can fortunately zoom in a little bit more and see a little more structure than he saw. We're stacking frames. It's 3.5 minutes is all, but look at what structure we can see so far. Kind of amazing. It's such a small object, but even in a wide field telescope like a RASA, our field of view is like 3 degrees wide. Even with a wide field, um, we can still see this object, and this object is only 12 arc minutes. So what would that be about? Uh, that would be a sixth, right? Roughly a fifth of a degree. It's a tiny object, but it's still showing up even in our wide field RASA telescope here. And we've just been observing for 4 minutes. Typically, you would want to be in an observatory with a very large inch, like a 14-inch scope or bigger, to be able to see something this small. And you can see how we're starting to see those outer regions now. These outer dust lanes are starting to show up. Um, Robert says, yeah, that's what EAA is all about. That's right, Robert. EAA, if you just tuned in, it's electronically assisted astronomy. It's where you let the sensitivity of the camera help you out, even on a moonlit night with light pollution of Louisville. So you don't have to be in a dark sky, and you also don't have to have, a 14-inch scope and a moonless night. Now look at the way we're starting to see those outer regions, because what we're doing is stacking one frame on another. Robert says, Jeff, you know that if you plan on watching clouds, it will be clear. That's probably a good point, Robert. Jeff says, it's been so cloudy, I haven't even bought any new gear. That's pretty bad. Astronomers are always joking that if you buy new gear, it's going to be cloudy. But see, I do have a new Artesky filter holder that's holding my camera on this RASA tonight. So I have a chunk of new gear and a new guide scope that I'm not using yet. Robert said it's all the back orders around the world. You're probably right there. The COVID scooted everything into back orders, didn't it? The reason why I think they call this the Sunflower Galaxy, look at the way let's see if I can pin this up here for a second, and if we can get just a little more a little more of those rings. Let's expose, or for the arms, rather, spiral arms. Let's expose a little more for those spiral arms. Look how you start to see now a little bit of that um, nebulosity, you could call it, dust. It's like the spiral arms of the Milky Way, except in this case, it truly is living up to its name, isn't it, of a sunflower galaxy, just because of all of that dust in the regions of those spiral arms. In fact, there's so much dust that it almost looks like a disk instead of just a galaxy with spiral arms. It's starting to look like truly a sunflower with all those little seeds, isn't it? It truly is an amazing sight. Uh, Boy, it's also amazing that Messier even saw this. I mean, look at how tiny it is and how faint. The truth of the matter is, as I understand, this was actually discovered by Messier's friend, Pierre Méchain, and he discovered it, I guess, on June 14th, 1779. And on that same day, I guess he told Messier about it, and they included it in their catalog. It is one of the earliest recognized spiral galaxies, but that didn't happen until 1850. Was the first time somebody actually recognized it as a spiral galaxy. Until then, it just looked like a cloud, a, a smudge in the sky. So M63 Sunflower Galaxy. I tell you what, this would make a believer in EAA for, I think, out of anybody, because on a moonlit night in the light pollution of Louisville with dense fog and, you know, uh, not only that, but we're just talking about 8 minutes exposure. It's kind of amazing that we'd see anything actually. Okay, M63. Let's uh, let's stop it at that, and let's go back over to our planetarium software, and I mean our targeting software, and let's do a new observation of that. And let's say beautiful dust illuminated between spiral arms, and we'll attach that picture while we're at it. Um, this is M63. You know what I'd love to do is before it's over, I want to know all of these numbers. How about you guys? Know all these numbers by heart. Wouldn't that be fun? M63. Let's sort this list again. Okay, we've got about a half an hour left. Do we have any objects that you guys would like to see? If we're looking at the Messier list here, we could we could go to M3, a globular. We haven't done a globular yet tonight. Let's do that. Let's go to a globular cluster, and it doesn't look like I've got a picture of it yet either.
Slewing to coordinates.
So a globular cluster,
Slewing complete.
that was pretty fast, wasn't it? Let's go back up. I'm going to make a sequence. Now that I'm using SharpCap 4.0 and they've got this new sequencer, I'm going to make a sequence that does all this stuff automatically so that I don't have to change each of these things individually each time. Doesn't that make sense? Um, so with SharpCap 4.0, I was saying you can do a list of the things you want to a list of the things that you want to do one step after another. Robert, thanks. Um, it basically lets you automate the setting of things like exposure and gain, and you can reset the display histogram automatically. So it really does save a lot of all those sub steps of time. Did I already do a color balance here? Yeah, pretty close. With all those, uh, I guess up there in the sky, they'd look like moon level stars at least, if not some of them, like our own sun, depending on how close you were to it, right? And that would always illuminate your night sky, so there wouldn't maybe be any night in some of these stars. You would just have constant day with 3 or 4 suns around you. So that would be pretty cool, except you wouldn't get to do any astronomy like we do, huh? So that's M3. Let's uh, let's do a quick snapshot of this, and then let's go back to our targeting software and say, what if we lived on a planet revolving around one of those stars? Um, and this is M3. All right. We've got about 25 minutes left. I wonder if you guys have an object you'd like to see. Why don't we do an open cluster? Let's see. We did a globular and we did a couple of galaxies, or we could do a planetary nebula. This one's at 34 degrees. Let's see if we can see him.
Slewing to coordinates.
Planetary nebula. This is M57.
Pier West.
So we did a meridian flip. Boy, I love the new power distribution box that's riding on top of the scope tonight, and it
Slewing
also has
complete.
the signal distribution box. So in one single electronics project box, now I have all of the power cables. I have the power coming in and all the power going back out, and also have all of the USB signals for everything coming in from one USB 3 cable and then distributing back out to everything else. And the dew heater, which keeps the scope from getting covered with dew, is also inside of there. I have now a dew heater band for the guide scope powered out of that as well. And all of
Syncing to
that box
coordinates.
rides on top of the scope.
Slewing to coordinates.
So I
Slewing
really
complete.
love that, and it's working really well, and it's enabled me to have really cool cable management. My scope is really a lot better off now compared to the way it used to be with all those cables. Okay, so we're plate solved, and we've got our name in. Let's do our 30 seconds at 100. And this is the Ring Nebula, planetary nebula. And you know, these planetary nebula are unique. They have the word planet in them, but they don't have anything to do with a planet. It's just that when early astronomers used to look at these, they thought they had to be a planet because they were spherical like a planet was. But what was discovered later, once uh, we had bigger telescopes and could actually see closer to some of these things, it was a star that was aging. And as it aged, it threw off a layer of material. And the material blew up sort of like a large balloon around the planet, the planet, around the star in the middle. And that material then um, gets illuminated by the star, and it makes sort of like as if it inflated a balloon around the outside of the star. It's really an interesting concept, and these things aren't like blowing up like a supernova and they're done in a day. This could take, 1,000 years or thousands of years. And the only thing about most planetary nebulae is that they're super tiny. So that's a factor. Let's zoom in some here. We're going to get a good view of this. Even though it's tiny, we're going to see a good view of this planetary nebula. So see how that material was cast out by the star, and then the star is illuminating it from the inside out, which, have you ever been to one of those weddings where they get these big white globes and they have the bulb inside and then the white globe is illuminated? That's kind of really what we're looking at here. This is M57. Let's hear the description of this, the audio tour.
M57 is a famous ring nebula, one of the most often seen objects in the sky, and the one most requested at gatherings of amateur astronomers. The ring is a sight of haunting beauty, and always brings out oohs and ahs from people at the eyepiece. M57 appears as a hoop or donut, usually whitish, but some eyes may see it as greenish. In small telescopes, the center appears empty, but in larger instruments it can be seen that the middle is occupied with a thin haze. The object is easy to find, located between Beta and Gamma Lyra, the two stars at the foot of the harp. The ring's small apparent size makes it often invisible in the finder scope, a source of confusion to beginners. A minimum of about 15 power is required to see M57. Although the ring appears fragile and small, it is worth remembering that the true size of M57 is about 45,000 astronomical units across. This is about 1,000 times the radius of our solar system.
Now you can see we're getting a few elongated stars there, and that makes me wonder if I need that little washer, that little tiny stainless steel washer between the camera. I looked up because I was interested in this. I'm going to tell you guys, I actually looked up how much play there is in this telescope because it's such a fast scope. And what I mean by that is it's f2. There's so little depth of field. See, how can I find this? See, I wrote this down. Now if I can just find where I wrote it. I mean, if I remember right, it was something like, oh, here it is, 11 microns. So what's a micron? Is that a thousandth of a millimeter? Let's find that out. What's a micron? Micron in millimeters. Yeah. 1 micron is a thousandth of a millimeter. So we're talking about 11 thousandths of a millimeter is the critical focus zone of this thing. And if that washer is not supposed to be in there, it throws off the back focus of the scope and makes everything difficult. So, Robert, I see you saying here that you know from experience that back focus is critical on a RASA. So I think you're exactly right. Now, Robert, you ask about, is this a Pegasus power box? No. The fun thing is, this is a box that I made. So I got to do a video on this because it's a lot of fun. I bought all the parts and assembled it piece by piece by piece over the past 10 or 12 days. So I can't wait to show you guys this in some kind of a video. Robert has it fixed at the top. You have a Pegasus power box on a top rail along with the ASI Air Pro. And you did have a TP-Link Wi-Fi extender because of the Alpha Wi-Fi, but now you use a Cat6 Ethernet cable for up to 30 meters away. That's awesome. Kim says, planetary nebula are wonderful, but generally best seen image with longer focal lengths. Absolutely. This is an accommodation, of course, because we're such a wide field scope. Uh, Kim says, I need a RASA. That's awesome. You know what, Kim? On a night when we get our focus figured out, this will look even sharper. Kim says, you Velcroed your Pegasus power box to your scope and switch between a TP-Link extender and Ethernet cable when connection reliability is critical. Good job. Okay, so what I really want us to notice here is look how there's a little bit of red on the outside of this thing. And I just think that's so interesting that we can detect the outer shell that's red and the inner one that's yellow. And then if you look very closely, and it happens that in our live audience here, we've got this projected on a larger screen TV. And although it's slightly out of focus, I'm looking on this larger screen TV, and you can barely, barely see that teeny tiny star that's illuminating all of this from the inside out. And boy, when we get rid of all these elongated stars and we get finer focus figured out for our next live stream, we'll have to come back to this and let you guys, we'll see this again because this is definitely beautiful. Uh, let's save an image of this and then stop our live stacking. Let's go back over to our planetarium software, to our targeting software and observing software, and let's say even though our RASA was now slightly out of focus, we could still barely make out the teeny tiny star in the center. We saw red edges at the outside of the cast off material. And we'll also save that file. Let's see. This is M. I'm going to memorize all these, gang. This is M57. I'm going to have all these memorized before it's over. M57. Okay. We've got about 14 minutes left. Kim, I look forward to learning how Doug gets rid of the elongated stars. Okay, my plan for that is, Kim, first of all, making sure I have the right back focus. Second, fine-tuning my focus better. Third, guiding, auto-guiding. And four, I also bought one of those little tiny collimation star targets. And I'm going to check the collimation on this RASA because, like I say, if you're only talking about 10 microns, 10 thousandths of a millimeter, you cannot afford for this to be off. And I know people are saying, don't mess with a RASA's collimation. But if it's off, it's off. I mean, I don't want to use we're going to slew to M29 now. We don't want to
Slewing to coordinates.
use a scope that's out of collimation, do we? Now, if I can learn to use this, I really think it's cool. Right now, we're looking at it from the top down, right? This shows us where all of the different Messier objects are in the night sky. This shows them in our galaxy. Now, we're looking right now at, let's see, we are looking at M29. So if we go here and we say, where is M29? Right there, center. And then we zoom in. It shows us where M29 is. Now, is that not fun or what? So that shows us where in the Milky Way galaxy M29 is. And look, here's the sun. So I wonder if you can see my pointer. Are you seeing? Yeah, you're seeing my pointer. So pretend we're here at the sun and we're trying to look at M29 and look at all this dust in the way. So I like that you kind of get a picture. But then the other thing that I want to learn how to do, I want to learn how to see this edge on like this. Now look at that. Now we're looking at the Milky Way galaxy from the edge. We can still see, can still find M29, and it can still point out where it is, center. So when we zoom in, now there's the sun, and look, now we're crossing through the galaxy at M29. That's kind of fun, isn't it? To let us see where in the galaxy we are and where in the galaxy M29 is. And you can control all the orientation you want, face on or edge on. You can center on the sun, or you can center on, like you can make the orientation face on, and then we're centered on the sun right now. Center on the galactic core. Is that not cool? I just think it's the coolest little thing. This program is free. It's called Our Galaxy, and you can search for it. And have I not been showing you this, guys? Are you not seeing this Our Galaxy that whole time? Were you not seeing? Oh yeah, you're seeing it. You can search for it on the web. It's called Our Galaxy, and I think it's worth the look. Okay, so M29. Now let's zoom in a little more. So it's not a striking, but all of those stars are traveling together, except in this case, um, they're newer. It's a newer cluster, and many astronomers think that it had nebulosity with it when it first started on its journey. In other words, all the clouds and stuff, and that those have been raked away by tidal forces. Um, Patrick, yes, we've talked about that. We talked about doing better focus, better collimation. So you're exactly right, and we're going to fix that by our next live stream. I just shared with the folks who were on before. This is a new imaging train for me, so I really didn't do darks. I didn't do flats. I haven't had a chance to test out the imaging train very well, but you can bet I'm going to be working on that. I'm going to start auto guiding, going to work on the collimation. It is a RASA, so they tell end users, don't collimate your RASA. You'll mess it up. But I'm just not going to use it if it's out of collimation. I'm going to find a way to collimate it. So we're going to work on all that, Patrick, just so you know. Okay, so this is our M29 view. We'll do a save of that, and that's M29, and we'll do a new observation and say, I still like open clusters, even if some people say that this is underwhelming. I still like it. I don't know. I find it kind of just interesting that these stars are traveling together, and maybe I just have a soft spot for clusters. The one thing that I want to get set next time is a better focus and stuff. You guys wanted to see the moon, so let's go there real quick.
Slewing to coordinates.
It's at 20 degrees now, so we should be able to. Okay, so let's go back out to full and let's get our camera controls back.
Slewing complete.
And let's do like, what, 1 second at a gain of 100. And that's still too bright. Let's go with 0.5 seconds. Still too bright. Let's go with 0.1 seconds. Still too bright. Let's go with 50 milliseconds. It's a pretty bright object, isn't it? Wow. 25 milliseconds? Wow. 5 milliseconds? Aha, now we're getting close. 2 milliseconds? You know, this is when you gotta love a RASA. This is letting us set whatever length of however much we want to zoom in here. You know, we can see the whole thing. So you can do a study of crater by crater. So it's pretty fun, huh? Pretty fun. And you know, you can keep zooming in, and on a night when you've got really good focus, and I don't have good focus, but on a night when you got real good focus, I have zoomed in and seen actually the flag at Apollo 11 site. No, I'm joking. I was just joking. No, I really haven't zoomed that much. But it is possible to, yeah, there's Robert. It's 0.001. You were right, Robert. Let's see. Robert says, Patrick and Doug, whilst using the ASI Air Pro, unless I had tracking clicked on the AZEQ6 GT mount, it would show elongated stars. Not sure whether there's anything on SharpCap. See, that's what I'm going to work on. As soon as we go offline, off the stream, I'm going to go out there physically to the scope. I've got to carry my laptop out there to be able to see through the camera, you see, at the scope. And I'm going to focus the guide camera through the guide scope. And I'm going to learn to do auto guiding with PhD2. Going to do that as soon as I'm done here. And I'm also going to get some decent focus going using the autofocus in Nina. The flag in the Californian studio. Exactly, Robert. Robert says the focus is looking better on the moon. Well, good, Robert. I'm glad. It is. You can see what's going on, all those little craters. Isn't it funny that all these craters have names? It's just crazy, isn't it? Well, it is 12, and I want to be true to everybody. Robert, you've been the trooper over in London. You've stayed up basically all night. Oh, now you zoomed in and focuses out. Robert, I'm sorry, I spoke too soon. Let's go back to 66. Um, I'll get this focus tuned up. I just hated wasting everybody's time on it. Kim, nice. I'm still recovering from putting out a lunar eclipse live stream last night. Well, that's awesome. Good job. I'll look forward to looking at that, Kim. Okay, so this concludes our live stream for tonight. Not one of our best when it comes to focus, but it's promising for me that we were at least this close on this new Arteski holder. And what I can tell you guys, I'm going to get this sorted out, and by the time we do the next live stream, we'll get this figured out, and next time we'll do better. Thanks a lot for being a part of this, guys. And we'll stop the live stream for now, but please know that you guys mean a lot to us, that you stayed up for this. And again, you guys live, thank you guys that you live stayed up for this as well. And God bless. Have a great evening, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon. Good night from